necessary measures taken to return normalcy in life of flood-affected people of the country, says Chief Advisor Dr. Mohammad Yunus. When elections will take place is completely a political matter, says Chief Advisor.
কখন নির্বাচন হবে সেটা সম্পূর্ণ রাজনৈতিক সিদ্ধান্ত, আমাদের সিদ্ধান্ত না। দেশবাসীকে ঠিক করতে হবে আপনারা কখন আমাদেরকে ছেড়ে দেবেন।
Flood situation is in improving trend across the country. 9.5 lakh people still marooned. Relief distribution continues. No forecast of heavy downpour in flooded areas. No compromise to corruptions. Police to be converted from force to service to make it pro-people, says Home Affairs Advisor. Bangladesh Bank working to return laundered money to the country from abroad, says Finance Minister. Metro service returns to city commuters. Government to take steps to prevent vandalism, says Road Transport and Bridges Advisor. Attacks and counter-attacks between Israel and Hezbollah, 48-hour state of emergency in Israel. And Tigers register first ever historic test win against Pakistan. President and Chief Advisor congratulate Team Bangladesh. Assalamu alaikum viewers, this is News at 10 on BTV and BTV World. I am Imtiaz Ahmed Siddiqui. You just heard the headlines. Moving on to the details of those and other stories. Interim Government Chief Advisor Dr. Mohammad Yunus has said all necessary steps have been taken to restore normalcy in the flood-affected areas of Bangladesh. He said this while addressing the nation in the evening today. Professor Yunus emphasized the importance of both domestic and regional cooperation to tackle such crises in the future. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus said the timing of the election is a political decision and people will decide how long this interim government will remain in power. Chief Advisor said a free, fair and participatory election will be held in the country after necessary reforms to administration, judiciary, the Election Commission, electoral system and law and order sector. Professor Yunus said the main aim of the election is to introduce an accountable political system against corruption, looting and mass killings.
করার জন্য যাবতীয় উদ্যোগ সরকারি বেসরকারি পর্যায়ে নেবার আয়োজন করেছি। ভবিষ্যতে সকল ধরনের বন্যা প্রতিরোধে আমাদের আভ্যন্তরীণ এবং প্রতিবেশীদের সঙ্গে যাতে যৌথভাবে নেওয়া যায় সে আলোচনা শুরু করেছে। বন্যা কবলিত এলাকার সকল মানুষের দুর্ভোগ লাঘবে সরকার সঠিক সহায়তা দেওয়ার জন্য সরকারের যত কার্যক্রম আছে তাদের সচল করেছে। আপনারা দেখেছেন আমাদের প্রতিটি প্রতিষ্ঠানকে তারা কিভাবে শেষ করেছে। দেশের রন্ধ্রে রন্ধ্রে ঢুকে গেছে দুর্নীতি। এমন এক দেশে আমাদের দেশ রূপান্তরিত হয়েছে যেখানে স্বৈরাচারের পিয়নও দুর্নীতির মাধ্যমে 400 কোটি টাকার সম্পদ করার মতো অকল্পনীয় কাজ করে গেছে নির্বিবাদে। শিক্ষা খাতকে পঙ্গু করে দিয়েছে। ব্যাংকিং ও শেয়ার বাজার খাতে লুটপাট, প্রকল্প ব্যয়ে বিশ্ব রেকর্ড, অবাধ সম্পদ পাচার, আইন শৃঙ্খলা রক্ষাকারী সংস্থাকে নিজ দলের পুতুলে রূপান্তর, বাক স্বাধীনতা হরণ, মানবাধিকার হরণ, এসবই হিমশৈলের অগ্রভাগ মাত্র। ক্ষমতা কুক্ষিগত করতে ফ্যাসিবাদী সরকার খর্ব করেছে জনগণের সাংবিধানিক ক্ষমতা ও অধিকার। দুঃশাসন, দুর্নীতি, অন্যায় অবিচার, নিপীড়ন, বিচারের নামে প্রহসনের মাধ্যমে জনসুরক্ষা বিপন্ন করেছে। ন্যায় বিচার নিশ্চিত করতে গণ অভ্যুত্থানের সকল শহীদ পরিবারকে পুনর্বাসন করবে। সকল আহত শিক্ষার্থী ও জনতার চিকিৎসার সম্পূর্ণ ব্যয় সরকার বহন করবে। একটা বিষয়ে সবাই জানতে আগ্রহী, কখন আমাদের সরকার বিদায় নেবে? এটার জবাব আপনাদের হাতে। কখন আপনারা আমাদেরকে বিদায় দেবেন? আমরা কেউ দেশ শাসনের মানুষ নই। আমাদের নিজ নিজ পেশায় আমরা আনন্দ পাই। দেশের সংকটকালে ছাত্রদের আহ্বানে আমরা এই দায়িত্ব গ্রহণ করেছি। আমরা সমস্ত শক্তি দিয়ে দায়িত্ব পালন করব। আমাদের উপদেষ্টা মণ্ডলীও এই লক্ষ্যে উদ্বুদ্ধ হয়ে সবাই মিলে একটা টিম হিসেবে কাজ করে যাচ্ছি। কখন নির্বাচন হবে সেটা সম্পূর্ণ রাজনৈতিক সিদ্ধান্ত, আমাদের সিদ্ধান্ত নয়। দেশবাসীকে ঠিক করতে হবে আপনারা কখন আমাদেরকে ছেড়ে দেবেন।
Chief Advisor Dr. Mohammad Yunus called upon China to relocate some of its solar panel factories to Bangladesh in an effort to boost the country's green transition and exports. Professor Mohammad Yunus made the call when Yao Wen, the ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Bangladesh, called on him at the State Guest House Jamuna today. The chief advisor stressed close economic collaboration between Beijing and Dhaka and asked the Chinese investors to relocate their plans in Bangladesh. He also called for increased imports of Bangladeshi goods to China in an effort to increase economic cooperation between the two nations. Yao Wen conveyed greetings of the Chinese leadership and its people to Professor Mohammad Yunus on his assumption of the leadership of the Bangladesh interim government. He said Beijing was ready to work with Dhaka and hoped that Dr. Yunus would fulfill expectations of a poverty-free Bangladesh. The ambassador said China would remain committed to finding a durable solution to the Rohingya crisis, including a ceasefire in violence-torn Rakhine State in Myanmar. Professor Yunus hoped that China would continue to provide political, financial and humanitarian assistance to more than 1 million Rohingya people living in Bangladesh. During the meeting, the Chinese ambassador conveyed Chinese leadership's invitation to Professor Yunus to visit China at his convenient time. The ambassador handed over a check for $20,000 to the flood relief fund of the chief advisor from the embassy. He said the Chinese Red Cross would also donate $100,000 as humanitarian aid to Bangladesh's flood-affected people. Large areas of 11 districts of the country have been affected by floods due to torrential rains and rush water from Tripura in upstream of India and heavy rains for several days. The people of these affected areas are still stuck in water in severe humanitarian crisis. In the last 24 hours, there was no heavy rainfall in northeastern, southeastern, eastern and close to upstream areas of the country. As a result, the flood situation in the lower areas of Molvi Bazar, Hobiganj, Feni, Kumilla and Chittagong districts continue to improve. According to the Meteorological Office, there is no possibility of heavy rainfall in the northeastern part of the country and the adjacent uplands in the next 24 hours. However, there is a possibility of light to moderate rains in different parts of the country and moderate to very heavy rains at some places. Meanwhile, the waters of Monu, Khowai and Dholai rivers have started to decrease. As the water recedes, the flood situation continues to improve in Chattogram, Khagrachori, Brahmanbaria and Hobiganj. Flood water has started to recede in Feni. Water has already receded significantly in Porshuram, Fulgazi and Chagollaya. However, the flood situation is deteriorating in Shonagazi and Dangunbhuya, while the flood situation of some areas is stable. The victims have started returning to their homes as the water level has receded. The extent of damage is becoming clear. Though the water has reduced, the suffering of the common people has not reduced. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief has said that there is no possibility of inundating new area again. In the flood-affected areas, relief distribution and rescue operations are continuing from all levels, including public and private initiatives. So far, 18 people died in the terrible floods. A total of 10,47,029 families in 11 southeastern districts have been marooned. About 52,10,000 people are affected in the flood. So far, 18 people have died in the flood-hit areas. Disaster Management and Relief Secretary Mohammad Kamrul Hassan said this at a press briefing at the Secretariat today. The Secretary said 4,15,273 people and 22,298 cattle have already been evacuated to 3,654 cyclone shelters. He said 3.52 crore taka in cash, 20,650 metric tons of rice and 15,000 sacks of dry food have been allocated for the flood victims. Besides, 70 lakh taka has been provided separately for baby food and cattle feed. Members of the anti-discrimination student movement, including private organizations, are working together to serve the flood-affected people. Besides, 748 medical teams are working in 545 unions and municipalities of 73 poslars to provide medical services to the flood-affected people. Fisheries and Livestock Advisor Farida Akhtar said the amount of damage in the fisheries and livestock sector by the ongoing flash flood in 12 districts is about 590 crore 36 lakh taka. She revealed the information while briefing journalists at Bangladesh Secretariat today. Fisheries and Livestock Secretary Saeed Mahmood Bilal Haider and senior officials of the ministry were present at that time. The advisor said a total of 1,80,899 fisheries in 86 southeast depositors have been affected, while the amount of damaged fish and shrimp is 90,768 metric tons. She said the government has taken rehabilitation program for the affected entrepreneurs in the fisheries and livestock sector, which includes easy loans. The 16 spillway gates of the Kaptai hydroelectric power plant in Rangamati have been opened, but there is no risk of inundation in low-lying areas. The authorities said all 16 gates were opened at 8:30 a.m. this morning by 6 inches each. Since the gates were opened, water has been flowing out with strong force. Due to several days of continuous rainfall and water flowing in from upstream, the water level of Kaptai Lake increased, leading to the opening of the 16 spillway gates to control the flood situation. The water level in Kaptai Lake crossed 108 feet mean sea level MSL yesterday. By this morning, it had reached 108.32 feet, thus exceeding the danger limit. This resulted in the discharge of 9,000 cubic feet per second of water through the 16 gates flowing into the adjacent Karnafuli River. None of the gates were opened last night as the expected inflow of water was not received. Relief collection program titled Gono Tran for the flood-affected people by Anti-Discrimination Student Movement is being continued today. The activities were underway for the fourth consecutive day at Dhaka University's TSC. The relief collection program began in the morning and continued till 8 at night. People from all walks of life are contributing to the initiative of the students with cash and relief materials, including medicine. Every night, representatives of the Anti-Discrimination Student Movement leave DSC for different districts with several trucks carrying relief materials. Information and Broadcasting Advisor Nahid Islam has sought assistance of the United Nations for the proper investigation into the human rights violations that took place during the student people movement. He sought the assistance when a delegation of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, led by its Asia-Pacific Region Chief Rory Mengovan, paid a courtesy call on Nahid and Youth and Sports Advisor Asif Mahmood Shoji Bhuya at the Youth and Sports Ministry office in the Bangladesh Secretariat in Dhaka today. Nahid Islam, also in charge of the Post Telecommunications and Information Technology Ministry, said the interim government is giving priority to three key areas in reforming the state structure, providing rehabilitation and long-term benefits to the families of those injured or killed in the movement, ensuring justice through proper investigations against those involved in the killings during the movement. At the meeting, Chief of Asia Pacific Region of UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Rory Munguvan, congratulated the interim government and appreciated the role of Bangladesh's youngsters for safeguarding the democracy and human rights. Home Affairs Advisor, Lieutenant General Retired Mohammad Jahangir Alam Chaudhry said there will be no concession of corruption committed by police. Corruption must be stopped at all costs, he added. Mohammad Jahangir Alam Chaudhry made the comments during a view exchange meeting with high-ranking police officials at police headquarters today. During the meeting, senior police officials presented several proposals aimed at enhancing the effectiveness of the force. The advisor assured them of the government's support in implementing these recommendations gradually. Inspector General of Police Moinul Islam was present among other high-ranking police officials in the meeting. Mohammad Jahangir Alam Chaudhry emphasized the need for acceptable reforms in policing, which he believes will lead to positive changes in how the police operate. He added police must become more people-friendly through their work. Home Affairs Advisor, Lieutenant General Retired Mohammad Jahangir Alam Chaudhry said the government primarily decided to cancel the 6-month rest policy after every 3 years of service for Ansar personnel. He made the comment while addressing journalists following a meeting with a delegation of Ansar personnel in the Secretariat this afternoon. Advisor for Labour and Employment Ministry Asif Mahmood Shaji Bhuiya and Advisor for Information and Broadcasting Ministry Mohammad Nahid Islam were present there. The Home Affairs Advisor added that a committee would be formed to review other demands of Ansar personnel. This committee will submit a report and a decision will be made based on that report, he added. Meanwhile, Ansar members agreed to suspend their ongoing protest and return to work following receiving assurance from the Home Affairs Advisor. The operations of Metro Rail resumed today after 37 days suspension in a row. The first train left Uttara North Station for Motijil at 7:10 in the morning. However, Mirpur 10 and Kazipara stations will remain closed. The two stations were vandalized by miscreants during the quota reform movement. Road Transport and Bridges Division's advisor Faizul Kabir Khan visited Agargaon station in the morning. The advisor travelled to the Secretariat station from Agargaon. According to DMTCL, the metro rail will run as per the previous schedule. Finance and Commerce advisor Dr. Saleh Uddin Ahmed said Bangladesh Bank is working to bring back laundered money from abroad to the country. He made the comment while addressing the journalists after his meeting with the delegation of the United Nations at the NEC conference room at Bangladesh Planning Commission in Shere-Bangla Nagar today. The finance advisor also said the government will be selective about taking overseas loans from now on. The loans will be utilized for sustainable development of the countrymen, he added. Regarding the ongoing movement by various quarters to press home their various demands to minimize discriminations, Dr. Saleh Ahmed said they were suppressed for so long. The advisor said that the government would try to address their problems after listening to their demands. Secretary of Economic Relations Division Mohammad Shahriyar Khadir Siddiqui and Country Director of ILO Tuomo Pochainen were present among others at the meeting. Meanwhile, Russian ambassador to Bangladesh Alexander Mentitsky called on the Finance and Commerce advisor at his office. They discussed various bilateral issues between the two countries. Advisor to the Ministries of Finance and Commerce, Dr. Saleh Ahmed has said the United States will enhance its support soon for Bangladesh to develop the agricultural sector. The finance advisor said this while talking with reporters after a meeting with Charge d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Dhaka, Helen Lafave, at the Finance Ministry in the city. During the meeting, Saleh said he urged the U.S. to invest more in the country's different sectors, including agriculture, energy and climate. He said the US is very important for Bangladesh. Economically, they are very important. The United States has a big investment in the coastal region of Bangladesh. The US is helping Bangladesh in different areas, including the agricultural sector. The advisor said they have also discussed what can be done to develop the country's technical sector. Japanese ambassador in Dhaka, Iwama Kiminori, has committed to providing all kinds of support to the interim government and ongoing projects and continued support in the future. He said this during a meeting with planning advisor Wahiduddin Mahmood at his office in the capital's Shere-Bangla Nagar today. Japanese ambassador said his country has been continuing projects during the interim government and hoped to hand over these projects to Bangladesh government in time. Advisor Wahiduddin Mahmood thanked the ambassador and said Japan has always been a good friend of Bangladesh and is its largest development partner. He also urged Japan to continue its support for the development of technical education. In response, the envoy pledged to continue supporting the development of technical education in Bangladesh and to offer scholarships for Bangladeshis to study in Japan. Later, UNDP resident representative for Bangladesh, Stephen Lilla, met the planning advisor. During the meeting, he assured to continue support to create employment and forming inventory projects. Advisor Wahiduddin Mahmood said Bangladesh will achieve success in SDG as like as MDG. Janmashtami, one of the major festivals of Hindu community, commemorating the birth of Lord Sri Krishna, will be celebrated tomorrow with due religious fervor and gaiety. According to Hindu mythology, Sri Krishna was born on the 8th day of dark fortnight in the Bangla month of Bhadra, birth in the ages in the world to safeguard the good and pious people from the hands of malevolent people by establishing truth, justice and beauty in the society. The day of Janmashtami is a public holiday in Bangladesh. Temples and religious organizations and institutions have chalked out programs to celebrate Janmashtami festival. National dailies will publish special articles, while Bangladesh Betar, Bangladesh Television, other private TV channels and radio stations will air special programs highlighting various aspects of life and philosophy of Lord Sri Krishna. And now international news. Israel's military killed at least 71 Palestinians in Gaza on Saturday as Israeli tanks and bulldozers advanced on the central city of Deir al-Balah. Reuters news agency reported that no sign of progress in mediated talks for a ceasefire in Gaza. Citing a Palestinian official, it said a Hamas delegation that was in the Egyptian capital Cairo has departed the city. At least 40,334 Palestinians have been killed and 93,356 wounded in Israel's attack on Gaza since October 7, 2023. Meanwhile, Israel's military launched intense air attacks across southern Lebanon, saying their provocative raids were aimed at removing a threat from Hezbollah. Myanmar is again tensed with clashes between junta forces and rebel groups. Rohingyas are at extreme risk of persecution in the war-torn country. In the meantime, the United Nations has expressed new fears. The organization has expressed fears that genocide may occur again on the local Rohingya population in Rakhine State like in the 2017. Volker Turk, head of the UN Human Rights Commission, expressed this fear. Turkish media TRT World reported this information, quoting Myanmar media, the Irrawaddy, yesterday. Volker Turk expressed serious concern about the acutely deteriorating situation across Myanmar, particularly in Rakhine. He said hundreds of civilians had been killed fleeing fighting in recent days. A murder case was filed over the death of Abdur Rahim, a former deputy assistant director of dissolved the Bangladesh Rifles BDR. Abdul Rahim was an accused in the case related to BDR killings at the BDR headquarters in Pilkhana. The case was registered against 13 people, including former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, former BDR Director General Aziz Ahmed, and Pilkhana case lawyer Musharraf Hussain Kajol. Advocate Abdul Aziz, son of deceased Abdul Rahim, filed this case in the court of the Dhaka Metropolitan Magistrate. The court ordered the authorities concerned to reinvestigate the case filed with Chowk Bazar police station and send reports. Abdul Rahim, who was arrested in the BDR carnage case, died in Dhaka Central Jail on 29th of July in 2010. And now sports news. Bangladesh sealed the first ever historic test win against Pakistan in Rawalpindi today. Not only this, the Tigers become the first team to defeat Pakistan by 10 wickets in the host's backyard. President Mohammad Shahabuddin and Chief Advisor to the interim government, Dr. Mohammad Yunus, congratulated Bangladesh team on this historic victory. Bangladesh chased down the small 30-run target without the loss of a wicket on Sunday to collect their first ever win over Pakistan. Before this, Pakistan had won 12 or 13 tests between the two teams, with the other finishing in a draw. Pakistan trailed by 117 runs on the first innings, but their batters failed to regroup. Mohammad Rizwan top scoring with 51 as Bangladesh's spinners took 7 of the 9 wickets to fall on day 5. Bangladesh bundled out the home team for 146 runs in the second innings. Mehdi Hasan Miraj bagged 4 for 21 runs and Shakib Al Hasan took 3 for 44 were the main wicket takers for Bangladesh. Earlier, Pakistan made 448 for 6 declared in their first innings, but Bangladesh replied with 565. Mushfiqur Rahim was adjudged man of the match for scoring 191 runs in the first innings. Bangladesh captain Najmul Hussain Shanto has dedicated the historic win over Pakistan to the memory of the victims of the anti-discrimination students' movement. The second test will start at the same venue from 30 August. To end the bulletin, headlines once again. Necessary measures taken to return normalcy in life